Hello, welcome to Reading Tutor. Glad you can join me for another fun and exciting Reading Tutor video. Today I'm going to do something unprecedented in the history of Reading Tutor. I'm going to read my manifesto. It's not every Reading Tutor that actually even has a manifesto, but I wrote a manifesto. I posted it on my Substack page, and now I'm going to read it. I'm not sure why. It just seemed like a good idea at the time. There must be a reason I'm doing this. I'll figure it out later. Anyways, make sure you like this video, subscribe. If you have any questions about tutoring, reading, literacy, any of that stuff in general, ask in the comments and I will answer. So anyways, here we go with my Reading Tutor Manifesto. Oh, also, I have it on my computer screen so that I'm not looking down at a sheet of paper. I'm looking at my screen, which is close to where my camera is, so it might seem like I'm looking at the camera, or if I'm not, at least I'm just a little bit underneath the camera. Anyways, Reading Tutor Manifesto. Here we go. None of the educational practices I'm going to gripe about are new. Every objection about the way public schools teach has been made by others. What they've written has been backed up by my own experience. It is why I sought out phonics programs early in my teaching career, way back when there was a debate between whole language and phonics in reading instruction. By that time, the late 1980s, public schools had been teaching reading using whole language methods for generations. Phonetic instruction was either ignored or demonized. The problem was that whole language instruction was failing a large percentage of students. This wasn't a secret. Schools began whole language instruction in the 1930s. The first book to warn parents that replacing phonics with whole language was damaging their children's education was published in 1955. It was by Rudolf Flesch, and it was called Why Johnny Can't Read and What You Can Do About It. Many other books were released covering the same ground, and every single one has been ignored by the educational establishment. My personal favorite is by E.D. Hirsch. It's called The Schools We Need and Why We Don't Have Them. In the 1990s, whole language was replaced by something called balanced literacy, which from my perspective as a teacher in those days was just repackaged whole language. Based on reading scores, balanced literacy has been as big a failure as whole language. Not even lowering the standards over the years could hide the fact that a large percentage of adults, after completing 12 years of schooling, still struggle with reading and writing and spelling. These are the three components of literacy, and literacy, not just reading, is the goal of education. And I'm going to interrupt myself here. I think that should have been Rudolf Fleisch. I think I misspelled his name and read it incorrectly. But I'm pretty sure Rudolf Fleisch wrote Why Johnny Can't Read. Anyways, part of the answer to this problem, as I learned, is explicit phonics instruction in the early grades. Phonics is the missing piece of literacy instruction that many students desperately need. Literacy instruction needs to start with teaching the letter sounds. Once students learn the sounds, teachers can teach them how to use those sounds to build words. These words become students' reading and writing vocabularies. Because they develop a strong phonetic foundation and are taught to sound out words, students can figure out many unfamiliar words on their own. They aren't held down to only the words they've been taught. Students continue to learn new words and use these words in written sentences and paragraphs, growing gradually from the expression of simple ideas to conveying more complex concepts. Their understanding of reading material also grows from simple texts to grasping complex ideas. Students learn letter sounds and spelling and vocabulary words through explicit instruction involving drill and practice, a method disparaged by whole language and balanced literacy advocates who refer to it as drill and kill and dismiss it as mere rote learning. but who excuse the well-documented failure of non-phonetic reading methods. If you think about it, in your own life, how did you get better at a skill you wanted to master? You practiced over and over until mastery was achieved or until you were satisfied. Yet somehow that doesn't apply when learning to read? And no, you can't make a game of it. Here's an unpleasant truth. Education is not a game. Education is hard work. It takes effort and drive. It can be painful and frustrating. It is usually not fun, but it is always rewarding. Once a child is past the toddler stage, there is no such thing as they were having so much fun they didn't even know they were learning. Children know when they are learning. They are aware when they know something today that they did not know yesterday. They are aware at the end of a school year that they know a lot more than they did at the beginning of the year. They are also aware if they haven't learned. They may resent it. They know they were supposed to learn, but they were trapped in a whole language or balanced literacy classroom and were not taught effectively. This can lead to trouble. An over-reliance on screens can also lead to trouble. In fact, it has led to trouble. So I say to you, dear reader, avoid screens. Keep your children off screens as much as possible. Instead of that fancy electronic reading device that needs to be recharged and from which your downloaded books can be changed or removed by our tech overlords. Read from books made of paper and ink. Yes, you do have to go through the trouble of turning the page, and you can't carry thousands of books with you, but children should avoid the seduction of the bright lights and learn to deal with real objects and enjoy the tactile sensations that come along with these objects. When I tutor, the only supplies my students use, whether they are children or adults, are paper and pencil. Students use their pencil to write letters and words on paper, thereby internalizing the letters, the words, and the ideas they express once they begin writing sentences and essays. Real learning takes place, and it lasts a lifetime. It's what all schools should be doing. They're not doing it, so here I am, working to make up for it. I want everyone to read. I want people to be such avid readers that bookstores are more popular than weed stores, and libraries need extended hours. I want book clubs to proliferate, and novels and poetry to become important to society again. I want regular people like us to write and spell like we are literate. I want the written word to unite us intellectually. This can all be done when people are taught correctly. Thank you for watching. Remember, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye.